If humans could hibernate, it would be a game changer. We could take vacations on other planets without having to worry about bringing enough food or water. We could even treat some diseases by slowing our metabolism down to extremely low levels. But what would it actually take? Hibernation isn't just a long nap. When an animal hibernates, their breathing slows way down, their body temperature drops, and they don't move at all. In fact, there's no really good scientific definition of hibernation. So scientists generally describe it as a state of prolonged torpor, which is a fancy way of saying they stay still for a really long time. And that state can last for weeks or even months. Now, the world record for the longest recorded bout of torpor in any species is held by a 13-lined ground squirrel who went 4.5 months without moving a muscle. The benefits of this incredible ability are many. During hibernation, an animal's heart rate and breathing slow dramatically, conserving oxygen and lowering its need for food. Some small mammals use up to 95% less energy when they're hibernating. And although they aren't exactly cured when they wake up, some animals do experience benefits from this metabolic slowdown. Bears, for example, become resistant to insulin while they're hibernating and then wake up with normal levels again. Same goes for their cognitive abilities. Bears also exhibit some symptoms of neurodegenerating diseases while they're hibernating, but they seem to wake up cured of those symptoms too. So if animals can reap these rewards, why shouldn't we try it ourselves? There are two big reasons. First, we don't fully understand how animals can safely slow their metabolism down so much. And second, we have no idea how to make that work for humans. To be fair, we do know quite a bit about hibernation already. The basic idea is that animals only enter the state when they're very cold, very hungry, and very sleepy. Those three factors can usually be controlled fairly easily. As soon as they start to sense that their body temperature is dropping, animals will snuggle up with their friends to conserve heat. If they're running low on food, they'll eat more before going into their torpor den. And if they've been awake for a long time, they'll be pretty tired and ready for a long nap. But getting an animal to go from being wide awake to totally unresponsive is a lot more complicated than just putting those conditions together. Hibernation isn't just one state, it's a series of states. An animal goes through several rounds of changing temperature, breathing rate, heart rate, and brain activity. For example, black bears undergo 4 distinct phases when they're hibernating. They start off with a light phase where they basically just chill out and lay around. After a few days, they enter the onset phase, which is when their breathing and heart rate begin to slow down and their bodies start getting colder. Then they spend most of their winter in the deep phase, where they don't move at all and their core body temperature can get more than 30 degrees Celsius below room temperature. Finally, they enter the termination phase, which is when their metabolism starts speeding back up and their body temperature begins to rise. These phases don't last for the same amount of time each year. They depend on things like the animal's size, age, and the temperature of its surroundings. And although some animals like bats and hummingbirds can enter a similar state called torpor, which allows them to save energy when they're not hibernating, true hibernation seems to only occur in mammals and birds. Now there are a lot of details about hibernation that scientists still want to figure out. Like, yes, bears do seem to wake up cured of their maladies, but we don't know exactly how or why that happens. But even though we have a lot to learn about how animals do it, that doesn't mean we can't start trying to make it work for people. Scientists have explored inducing human hibernation for decades now. The military has long been interested in hibernation because it could help soldiers survive brutal winter conditions without needing shelter. But hibernation might also help us fight diseases. People with metabolic disorders like diabetes or neurodegenerative disorders like Alzheimer's might benefit from the restorative powers of super slow metabolism. Plus, it could help astronauts traveling through deep space. A 6-month journey to Mars would take less than 2 weeks for an astronaut if they were hibernating. That's because astronauts need to bring a lot of food with them on long journeys because the farther away you get from Earth, the harder it is to resupply. But if astronauts could hibernate, they could get away with bringing far less food. NASA has been researching ways to make that possible for years. Unfortunately, the earliest anyone thinks we could try human hibernation is decades from now. And the main reason we're so far from making this sci-fi dream a reality is that we don't know how to replicate the adaptations animals have made to survive the process. Yes, you can put certain adult humans into a drug-induced coma. lower their body temperature, and control their environment to prevent deadly complications. But that's not the same thing as true hibernation. The problem is we don't know exactly how animals manage to safely enter a state where 95% of the cells in their body slow down, including their brains. We don't know what kind of damage that does to them internally, and we don't know how to fix it. That's the big question. And scientists are starting to tackle it by figuring out just how much energy an animal needs to go into hibernation. Hibernating animals have to keep their brains fed with glucose, but they don't have much access to food while they're napping. So they end up using stored nutrients and converting them to glucose. Researchers at the University of Alaska recently figured out how a small mammal does this by studying a group of 13-lined ground squirrels. They discovered that squirrels rely on a previously unknown chemical pathway to convert lactate, which is produced by their muscles, into glucose. This discovery could help scientists develop a new drug to supply fuel to sleeping human brains, which is a critical step toward making hibernation happen. Other research is focusing on the role that hormones play in enabling hibernation. Hormones are chemicals that allow different parts of the body to communicate with each other. And animals have evolved to make lots of different hormones in order to get into hibernation. Scientists are trying to figure out which ones are most important. They've identified a group of proteins that are essential for white-throated sparrows to enter torpor, for example. And they've discovered that hamsters need another group of proteins to survive the winter. Hopefully, understanding these pathways will lead to humans being able to safely hibernate. There are other things scientists are looking at too, like how certain genes are turned on or off to help animals prepare for hibernation, and just what happens to their immune system when they enter this dormant state. This research could lead to advances in how we treat illnesses beyond those related to metabolism and neurology. The immune system is involved in fighting infections, but it's also responsible for suppressing the growth of cancer cells. So hibernation might have anti-cancer benefits too. Unfortunately, it'll probably be a while before we can test that hypothesis. And it's unclear whether or not humans ever will be able to hibernate. If we do, it won't happen naturally. So what do you think? Are you excited about the possibility of hibernation, or are you happy that it's just a dream? Let me know your thoughts. And thank you for watching C Show.